There are seasons in life when the deepest exhaustion does not come from work or from lack of sleep or even from visible problems. It comes from the quiet, constant pressure of feeling like you have to defend yourself all the time, defend your choices, defend your character, defend your faith, defend your silence. It is a subtle tension that settles into your shoulders, tightens your jaw, shortens your breath, and after a while, you do not even notice you're carrying it. You just call it life. Maybe you have been explaining yourself to people who never truly listen. Maybe you have been trying to prove your intentions to those who already decided what they believe about you. Maybe you are facing accusations, misunderstandings, financial strain, family conflict, or silent spiritual battles that no one else sees. And the most painful part is not the situation itself. It is the loneliness of feeling that you are standing in the middle of it with no one stepping in for you. There is a specific kind of fatigue that comes from always being on guard. Your nervous system stays alert. Your thoughts rehearse conversations that have not happened yet. Your heart prepares for impact before anything even touches you. Neuroscience tells us that when we live in constant defense mode, the brain interprets life as a threat. Cortisol rises, muscles tighten, the body forgets how to rest, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to believe that if you lower your guard, everything will fall apart. But what if the exhaustion you feel is not a sign that you are weak? What if it is a signal that you were never meant to carry every battle alone? There is an ancient whisper in Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Notice how it begins. Not with strategy, not with retaliation, not with self-justification. It begins with identity. The Lord is my light. The Lord is my salvation. Defense starts in knowing who stands with you, not in how loudly you argue back. And in Psalm 35, there is a raw and honest prayer. Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me. That is not a polished prayer. It is not overly spiritual. It is deeply human. It is the prayer of someone who is tired of fighting, tired of proving, tired of explaining. It is the prayer of someone who finally says, God, you step in. There are moments when defending yourself is necessary, but there are also moments when continuing to fight only deepens the wound. Think of David standing before Goliath. He refused the heavy armor that did not fit him. He did not carry weapons that belonged to someone else. He stepped forward with trust, not with borrowed protection. In the same way, you do not have to wear the armor of constant explanation. You do not have to carry arguments that do not belong to your spirit. Some battles are not yours to win. Some battles are meant to be surrendered. And surrender, in this context, is not weakness. It is alignment. It is choosing to step out of chronic survival mode and into conscious trust. It is allowing your nervous system to soften because your soul remembers that God is present right now, not far away, not waiting for you to perform better, present. Perhaps what has hurt you the most is not the conflict itself, but the feeling of abandonment in it, the sense that you are unseen, unheard, unprotected, that quiet question that sometimes rises late at night. God, are you watching this? Do you see what is happening to me? That question does not make you faithless. It makes you human. And that ache in your chest is not rebellion. It is longing for reassurance. Let me say this gently and firmly. You were never designed to be your own ultimate defender. You were never meant to carry every accusation, every misunderstanding, every spiritual weight on your own shoulders. When you try to be both the wounded and the warrior at the same time, something inside you begins to fracture. You become tired in ways that sleep cannot fix. There is a different way, a quieter way, a way that does not depend on having the last word, a way that does not rush to clear your name in every room. It is the way of entrusting your reputation, your story, and your outcome to God. It is not passive. It is deeply courageous because it requires you to release control over how things look and trust in a justice that is higher than public opinion. Right now, as you listen, notice your body. Notice your breathing. Is your chest tight? Is your stomach tense? That tension often comes from bracing yourself. Bracing for criticism, bracing for loss, bracing for attack, and bracing, over time, becomes your default posture. But what if, in this moment, you allowed your shoulders to lower just a little? What if you inhaled slowly and let your body experience, even for a few seconds, what it feels like to not be on guard? The promise is not that difficult times will disappear instantly. The promise is presence. The promise is that when you place your battles in God's hands, something shifts internally first. The fear loses a bit of its grip. The urgency softens. The need to react immediately begins to dissolve. And in that space, faith becomes real. Not loud, not dramatic, real. You may have been carrying emotional curses, words spoken over you that still echo in your mind. You may have been replaying scenes of injustice, reliving them as if they are happening again. You may feel trapped in a cycle that repeats: accusation, defense, exhaustion, accusation, defense, exhaustion. But cycles can be interrupted, not always by force, sometimes by surrender. Imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like if God truly stepped in as your defender, if every unseen attack, every distorted narrative, every silent injustice were brought before him. Imagine not having to monitor everything, not having to anticipate every possible misunderstanding. Imagine resting in the reality that your worth is not decided by the loudest voice in the room, but by the one who formed you. This prayer is not about asking God to crush your enemies. It is about asking him to guard your heart, to guard your mind, to guard your peace. Because when your inner world is protected, the outer storms lose some of their power. You're not weak because you're tired. You're tired because you have been strong for too long in a way that was never meant to be sustained alone. And today, something inside you can shift. Today, you can begin to let God defend you. Not tomorrow, not when everything is resolved. Today, stay here. Breathe slowly. Let this truth settle into your nervous system, into your thoughts, into your spirit. You do not have to fight every battle. You do not have to answer every accusation. You do not have to prove your worth. There is a presence with you now, and that presence is not distant. It is attentive. It is aware. It is capable. And as we continue, you will begin to feel what it means to loosen your grip and allow God to stand between you and what has been trying to break you. Living in constant defense slowly turns into living in constant attack. Even if you would never describe yourself as aggressive, your inner world may feel like a battlefield. You anticipate criticism before it arrives. You prepare answers before questions are asked. You rehearse arguments in your mind while brushing your teeth, while driving, while trying to fall asleep. And without noticing, your entire system becomes wired for conflict. This kind of hypervigilance feels responsible. It feels wise. It even feels mature. You tell yourself that you are simply being prepared, simply protecting your heart, simply staying one step ahead. But there is a hidden cost to always being prepared for the worst. Your body does not know the difference between a real attack and an imagined one. When you constantly expect threat, your brain keeps activating survival circuits. Your heart beats a little faster, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tighten, and over time, peace starts to feel unfamiliar. The invisible mistake is believing that constant alertness equals safety. In reality, chronic alertness often blocks peace and weakens faith, because when you are always scanning for danger, it becomes difficult to sense God's presence, not because He is absent, but because your nervous system is too busy bracing for impact. There is a subtle shift that changes everything, reacting after praying instead of reacting before praying. Many of us have reversed the order. Something happens, and within seconds we respond. We defend, we explain, we correct. Only later, when the emotional storm has already escalated, do we say, God, help me. But what if the order changed? What if prayer became the first reflex, not the last resort? This is not about becoming passive or silent in every situation. It is about leadership. Who leads your response, fear or faith? When fear leads, your words carry tension. When faith leads, even firm boundaries carry calm strength. The difference is not always visible externally, but internally it is profound. Picture yourself holding a sword high in the air all day long. At first, you feel strong, alert, ready. But as minutes turn into hours, and hours into days, your arm begins to shake. Your muscles burn. The weight increases. Eventually, the weapon meant to protect you becomes the very thing exhausting you. Now imagine lowering the sword and stepping behind a shield that is not held by your own strength, but sustained by God. The battle may still exist, but the pressure on your arm changes. The strain shifts. The burden is shared. Some of the anxiety that you feel may not come from the situation itself, but from the responsibility you have assumed over outcomes that were never fully yours to control. You try to manage every perception, every possible misunderstanding, every future risk, and in doing so, you carry a weight that slowly drains your joy. Take a moment and think about a recent situation where you reacted quickly. Perhaps a message that triggered you, a comment that felt unfair, a look that stirred insecurity. Notice how fast your mind moved. Notice how your body responded. Now imagine inserting a sacred pause in that exact moment, even 60 seconds, one deep breath, a silent prayer. God, lead this response. This pause is not weakness. It is regulation. It is allowing your nervous system to settle before your words move forward. It is inviting God into the space between stimulus and response. And that space, though small, can change the entire trajectory of a conversation. When you live in attack mode, you may feel powerful for a moment, but afterward, you often feel empty, drained, heavy, because constant defense consumes emotional energy. Faith, however, restores it. Faith does not mean denying reality. It means choosing not to let fear dictate your posture. You were not created to exist in permanent combat readiness. Your spirit was designed for trust, for alignment, for moments of stillness where you can breathe deeply without scanning the horizon for the next threat. The more you live in reaction, the more your world feels hostile. The more you live in trust, the more your inner world stabilizes, even if external circumstances remain uncertain. And here is a gentle truth. Sometimes the need to defend yourself immediately is connected to a deeper fear of being misunderstood or rejected. There is a vulnerable place inside you that longs to be seen accurately. When that longing feels threatened, you rush to protect it, but God sees you fully, completely, without distortion. When you anchor yourself in that reality, the urgency to correct every human misunderstanding begins to loosen. Today, you are invited to experiment with a different posture, not passive, not indifferent, but anchored, rooted. A posture that says, I will act when necessary, but I will not let fear rush me. A posture that says, God goes before me. A posture that allows your body to soften because your soul knows it is not alone in the fight. The exhaustion you feel is not proof that you are failing. It is evidence that you have been carrying too much by yourself. And as we move forward, you will begin to see that surrender is not the absence of strength. It is strength redirected toward trust. There is a delicate line between trusting God and trying to control everything while calling it trust. Many people pray sincerely for protection, for justice, for intervention. They ask God to defend them, but at the same time, their minds are racing, strategizing every possible outcome, replaying scenarios, trying to predict how everything will unfold. The lips say, I trust you. The body says, I need to manage this. Psalm 37 offers a simple but demanding invitation. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. Notice the order. Commit, trust, then He acts. The acting is not first. The controlling is not required. There is a sacred sequence here that challenges the part of us that feels safer when we hold the reins tightly. Control often disguises itself as responsibility. You tell yourself that you're just being proactive, just being wise, just making sure nothing falls apart. And yes, responsibility is healthy. But there is a difference between doing your part and trying to dominate the outcome. Responsibility handles your actions. Control tries to manage everyone else's reactions. Responsibility plants seeds. Control tries to force the weather. From a psychological perspective, control gives the brain an illusion of safety. When outcomes feel uncertain, the mind searches for something it can grip. It analyzes, predicts, rehearses. That mental activity creates a temporary sense of power, but underneath it, anxiety often grows. Because deep down, you know you cannot truly orchestrate every detail of life. Faith, on the other hand, feels risky. It asks you to release the illusion of total control. It asks you to do what you can, and then step back, not in apathy, not in indifference, but in active trust. Active trust means you continue walking, but you are no longer obsessing over the final scene. Think of Moses standing before the Red Sea. The people were panicking. The enemy was behind them. The water was in front of them. Everything in their nervous system screamed, "Move! Do something." But there was a moment when they had to stop and witness what only God could do. A moment of stillness before the path appeared. You may be standing at your own version of that sea right now, pressured from behind, blocked in front, and your instinct is to push harder, think faster, act sooner. But what if this is a moment to pause? What if this is a moment to commit your way to the Lord in a deeper, more embodied way? Try something tangible. Take a piece of paper and write down the situation that has been consuming your thoughts. Be specific. The name, the conflict, the fear, the financial strain, the health concern. Do not spiritualize it. Write it as it is. Then hold that paper in your hands and pray over it. Speak honestly. Speak vulnerably. And when you are done, say out loud, slowly, "The outcome belongs to God." Notice what happens inside you when you say that. There may be resistance, a tightening in your chest, a voice that whispers, "But what if he does not handle it the way I want?" That voice is not evil. It is human. It is the part of you that fears disappointment. Acknowledge it gently and then return to the truth. Trust is not about predicting how God will act. It is about believing that He sees more than you do. Control keeps your nervous system in constant engagement. Trust allows it to rest between actions. And rest is not laziness. Rest is restoration. When you commit your way to the Lord, you are not stepping out of responsibility. You are stepping out of obsession. You are allowing your mind to breathe. There is also humility in surrender. It requires admitting that you do not have the full picture, that your perspective is limited, that your timeline may not be ultimate, and humility is not humiliation. It is alignment with reality. You are finite. God is not. If you have been feeling mentally exhausted, it may not be because the situation is impossible. It may be because you have been trying to carry both your role and God's role at the same time. You were meant to walk faithfully, not to engineer the entire universe. So today, as you continue listening, imagine placing that written situation into God's hands. Visualize yourself opening your fingers. Feel the subtle trembling of letting go. And then imagine His hands steady, capable, strong enough to hold what you cannot. Commit your way, trust in Him, and allow Him to act in His timing, in His wisdom, in ways that may exceed your current understanding. This is not passive faith. This is mature faith, and it brings a kind of peace that control never could. After you pray, what do you say to yourself? This question is gentle, but it is powerful, because sometimes the most intense battle is not happening around you. It is happening within you. You pray with sincerity. You ask God to defend you. You declare trust. And then, hours later, your thoughts begin whispering a different story. This is going to go wrong. They will never understand. I always end up alone in these situations. Without noticing, you start undoing in your mind what you surrendered in prayer. Psalm 56 says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." It does not say, "if I am afraid." It says, "when." Fear is not a failure of faith. It is a human response. But trust is a decision that must be repeated. Repeated when the fear returns. Repeated when the memory of past pain resurfaces. Repeated when your imagination begins constructing worst-case scenarios. Neuroscience shows that the brain strengthens whatever thought patterns are repeated most often. The more you rehearse fear, the more familiar it becomes. The more you repeat trust, the more natural it starts to feel. Your brain does not automatically choose hope. It follows what you practice. This means that your inner dialogue is not neutral. It is shaping your emotional posture every single day. Imagine planting seeds in a garden. If you plant seeds of accusation, "I am always misunderstood. I am never protected. Nothing ever works out for me," You should not be surprised when insecurity grows. But if you begin planting different seeds, God sees me, God defends me, God is working even when I cannot see it. Over time, your inner landscape changes, slowly, gently, but truly. The problem is that negative thoughts often feel more realistic. They feel protective, as if expecting the worst will cushion the blow. But constantly anticipating harm does not reduce pain. It extends it. Your body experiences the stress long before anything actually happens. There is a subtle but transformative practice you can begin today. Each time a fearful thought surfaces after you pray, do not shame yourself. Do not say, "I have no faith." Simply pause, recognize the thought, and then consciously replace it with a truth anchored in Scripture. If your mind says, "I am alone in this," respond softly but firmly, "The Lord is my light and my salvation." If your mind says, "I need to fix this immediately," answer, "Commit your way to the Lord. He will act." Speak it out loud if you can. There is something powerful about hearing your own voice declare truth. Sound travels through your body. It regulates your breathing. It slows your racing thoughts. It reminds your nervous system that you are not helpless. Your internal words are not small. They are formative. They either reinforce fear or cultivate peace. And peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of alignment. Alignment between what you pray and what you repeatedly tell yourself. Be patient with yourself in this process. You may have been repeating anxious narratives for years. Patterns like that do not disappear overnight, but every time you interrupt a fearful script and replace it with trust, you are building new pathways. Spiritually and neurologically, you are teaching your mind to rest in God instead of rehearsing catastrophe. There is also compassion needed here. Some of your inner dialogue may have been shaped by real wounds, real betrayals, real disappointments. If you have been hurt repeatedly, your mind learned to anticipate danger as a form of protection. Thank it for trying to keep you safe, and then gently guide it toward a higher protection. God's defense does not only happen externally, it begins internally. When your mind becomes anchored in truth, external accusations lose some of their sting. When your inner world is rooted in trust, outer storms do not shake you as easily. So today, listen carefully to the voice inside you, not with judgment, with awareness. And each time fear rises, return to that simple declaration: "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." Say it again and again and again, until it is not just a verse you quote, but a rhythm your heart recognizes. Because the way you speak to yourself after you pray will either strengthen your surrender or quietly dismantle it. Choose words that align with the defense you have placed in God's hands. One of the most fragile moments in difficult times is the waiting. You pray, you surrender, you ask God to defend you, and then silence. The situation does not resolve instantly. The accusation is not immediately corrected. The injustice is not publicly reversed. And in that space, doubt tries to enter quietly. If God is defending me, why does this still hurt? There is a common misconception that divine defense must be dramatic and visible. We imagine immediate vindication, swift reversals, clear victories. But Psalm 18 describes God as a rock, a fortress, a deliverer. A rock does not panic. A fortress does not rush. Protection is sometimes strategic, layered, unfolding. in ways that are not obvious in the moment. Justice is not always loud. Sometimes it is slow. Sometimes it works beneath the surface, shaping circumstances, aligning people, exposing truth gradually. And during that process, something else is happening. Something inside you is being strengthened. There are seasons when God does not remove the confrontation immediately because the confrontation is revealing something essential, not to shame you, not to test you in cruelty, but to refine you, to mature you, to show you parts of yourself that would remain hidden without pressure. Think of Joseph, accused falsely, imprisoned unjustly, forgotten by those he helped. From a human perspective, it looked like abandonment, but each stage positioned him for a greater responsibility. The betrayal, the confinement, the waiting, none of it was wasted. None of it was random. It was painful, yes, but it was purposeful. This does not mean that God causes every injustice. It means He is able to work through what was meant to harm you. There is a difference, and that difference matters because it preserves both your trust and your understanding of His character. When defense feels delayed, the temptation is to take control again, to step back into self-protection, to force resolution. But what if the delay is not neglect? What if it is construction? Construction of resilience, construction of wisdom, construction of discernment that will serve you long after this specific battle ends. Notice what this season is teaching you. Are you becoming more aware of your boundaries, more conscious of who truly supports you, more anchored in prayer rather than in public approval? Growth often hides inside discomfort, and while you would never choose the pain, you may one day recognize the strength it produced. God's justice is not only about clearing your name, it is about shaping your soul. It is about ensuring that when vindication comes, whether publicly or privately, you are strong enough to carry it without pride, without bitterness, without the need to retaliate. There is also a deeper comfort here. If God's defense were always immediate, your faith might remain shallow. It might depend only on visible outcomes. But when you learn to trust Him in the unseen process, your faith becomes rooted, stable, less dependent on applause or quick results. If you are in a season where nothing seems to be shifting externally, do not assume that nothing is happening. Roots grow in silence. Foundations are laid underground. The strongest structures are supported by what no one sees. And perhaps the most profound defense God is offering you right now is internal stability, a heart that is not easily shaken, a mind that does not spiral at every rumor, a spirit that remains steady even when circumstances fluctuate. Justice may not always arrive in the form you expect, but it arrives in the form you need. And sometimes the greatest victory is not proving others wrong. It is remaining whole while they misunderstand you. So if you feel the tension of waiting, breathe into it. Do not rush the process. Do not interpret silence as absence. God's defense is not careless. It is precise. It is intentional. It is aligned with a bigger picture than you can currently see. And when the time comes, whether through visible restoration, quiet closure, or inner peace that surpasses explanation, you will realize that nothing was wasted. Not the tears, not the confusion, not the long nights of prayer. He is working, even now, even here, even in this very moment of uncertainty. There is a strength that does not shout, a strength that does not rush to respond, a strength that trusts so deeply that it does not feel the need to win every argument. This strength is often misunderstood because in a world that rewards quick reactions, silence can look like weakness. But spiritually and emotionally, silence can be one of the most powerful forms of defense. When you are accused, misunderstood, or confronted, your nervous system reacts almost instantly. Your heart rate increases. Your thoughts accelerate. Words line up, ready to defend your position. This reaction is biological. It is your brain trying to protect you. But not every impulse needs to become an action. Not every emotional surge deserves immediate expression. Jesus, when confronted and falsely accused, often remained silent, not because he had no answer, not because he lacked truth, but because his confidence was rooted in the Father, not in public approval. That silence was not passive. It was anchored. It was deliberate. It was trust embodied. There is a profound emotional maturity in choosing when not to speak. When you react impulsively, you may feel temporary relief, a discharge of tension, but often the situation escalates. Words multiply, interpretations distort, and afterward, you're left feeling even more drained. Silence, on the other hand, interrupts the escalation. It creates space. It allows emotion to settle before truth is expressed. This is where spirituality and neuroscience meet in a very practical way. When you pause before responding, you give your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for wisdom and discernment, time to engage. You step out of survival mode and into conscious response. And in that pause, you can invite God into the moment. Consider creating what we might call a sacred interval, a small, intentional gap between what happens to you and how you answer. It may be a few deep breaths. It may be a short prayer whispered under your breath. Lord, guide my words. It may be walking away for a few minutes before replying to a message. This interval is not avoidance. It is alignment. Not every accusation requires explanation. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Some situations reveal themselves over time. Some truths defend themselves through consistency. And some battles dissolve when you refuse to fuel them with reactive energy. There is also something deeply freeing about realizing that you do not have to convince everyone. You do not have to control every narrative. When God is your defender, your role shifts from constant clarification to faithful integrity. You live consistently. You speak truth when necessary, but you do not chase validation. Imagine an archer holding a bow. If he releases the arrow too soon, it misses the target. If he waits with awareness, he releases at the precise moment. Silence is like drawing the bowstring and waiting for clarity. It is trusting that timing matters, that not all responses are urgent. Sometimes the greatest spiritual power is demonstrated not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say, in refusing to match aggression with aggression, in refusing to mirror hostility, in choosing composure when others expect retaliation. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means processing them with God before presenting them to people. It means allowing your heart to settle in prayer so that when you do speak, your words carry steadiness instead of turbulence. If you have been feeling pressure to respond to everything immediately, consider that this pressure may not be from God. Urgency often comes from anxiety. Guidance often comes with calm clarity. The voice of fear pushes. The voice of wisdom leads. And perhaps today, one of the ways God will defend you is through your restraint, through your refusal to escalate, through your decision to trust that He is working behind the scenes you cannot see. Silence is not emptiness, it is space. Space for discernment, space for peace, space for divine intervention. As you move forward from this moment, carry this quiet strength with you before the next response, before the next confrontation, before the next explanation. Pause, breathe, pray. Let your first reaction be presence, and trust that the God who sees every hidden detail knows exactly when and how to act on your behalf. Now, we arrive at a sacred moment, not an ending, but a settling, a returning. After reflecting on exhaustion, on control, on inner dialogue, on silence, we come back to the heart of it all. Prayer, not a rushed prayer, not a desperate negotiation, but a grounded, conscious surrender. Take a slow breath right now. Let the air fill your lungs gently. Notice your shoulders. Let them soften. You have been carrying more than you realized. And this moment is not about striving. It is about releasing. Let these words move slowly through you. Lord, you are my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? You are the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Allow that truth to sink beneath the surface of your thoughts. Light, salvation, stronghold. These are not abstract ideas. They are stabilizing realities. When God is your light, confusion does not have the final word. When He is your salvation, danger does not define your future. When He is your stronghold, you are not exposed. Now continue. Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Say it without aggression. Say it with trust. This is not a prayer for revenge. It is a prayer for justice, aligned with divine wisdom. It is a recognition that you do not need to carry every confrontation alone. It is humility, and humility is strength. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. Whisper that slowly. He will act. Not always on your timeline, not always in the way you imagine, but He will act. Faith does not demand immediate proof. It rests in divine character. Now let this prayer become personal. Lord, fight my battles. Guard my heart from fear. Guard my mind from anxiety. Guard my words from impulsive reaction. Where I have tried to control outcomes, teach me surrender. Where I have rehearsed fear, teach me trust. Where I have been exhausted from defending myself, become my defender. Feel the gentleness of that request. You are not asking to escape responsibility. You are asking for alignment, for inner stability, for spiritual covering. Bring to mind the accusation that hurt you, the conflict that unsettled you, the uncertainty that keeps you awake. Visualize placing it carefully and intentionally into God's hands. Do not throw it. Do not rush. Place it there, and imagine His hands steady, capable, unwavering. Every unjust word spoken over you, every misunderstanding, every hidden spiritual weight, in the presence of the Most High, they lose their ultimate authority. They may still echo for a moment, but they no longer define you. They no longer own your peace. Difficult times do not determine destiny. They reveal foundation. And when God is your defender, the outcome is not humiliation. It is refinement. It is restoration. It is a deeper honor that grows quietly from integrity and trust. There may still be challenges ahead. This prayer does not deny reality, but it changes your posture within reality. You move from constant self-protection to anchored confidence, from reactive tension to responsive wisdom, from carrying everything alone to walking with divine partnership. And now, let me ask you something gently, without pressure. What would shift inside you if you truly believed that God is defending you right now? Not someday, not after everything is resolved. Right now. How would your breathing change? How would your tone soften? How would your sleep deepen? How would your decisions steady? Sit with that question. Let it echo softly in your spirit. You are not abandoned. You are not invisible. You are not fighting alone in a silent universe. There is a presence attentive to every detail, aware of every injustice, tender toward every wound you carry. Rest in that presence. Let your nervous system settle into it. Let your thoughts slow into it. Let your faith root itself in it. And as you move through the rest of this day, carry this quiet assurance with you. You do not have to defend yourself at every turn. You do not have to rush to prove your worth. You do not have to hold the sword every moment. God is your defender, and you are safe enough to trust Him. We will now gently extend this prayerful moment, allowing the message to reach the fullness of a 20-minute spiritual immersion. Let this final portion not feel like repetition, but like deepening, like roots going further down into quiet soil. Stay with me. Close your eyes if you can, or simply soften your gaze. Let your breathing slow again. Inhale through your nose. Hold gently. Exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this once more. And as you breathe, let your body receive what your spirit has already heard. There is something profoundly healing about realizing you do not have to monitor everything. You do not have to anticipate every betrayal. You do not have to calculate every outcome. That constant internal vigilance has been exhausting you. It has kept your nervous system on edge. It has made rest feel unfamiliar. But right now, in this moment, you are allowed to rest. Not because everything is resolved, not because every conflict has disappeared, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. Say quietly within yourself, God is defending me. Notice what happens inside when you say that. Perhaps a part of you resists. Perhaps a part of you feels relief. Both reactions are okay. You are retraining your heart to trust again. And trust, especially after disappointment, is a process. You may have experienced seasons where you prayed and felt unheard, where outcomes did not align with your hopes, where you wondered if surrender even made a difference. Those memories can create hesitation now. They can make you want to keep a backup plan of control, just in case. But here is a firm and compassionate truth. Self-protection can only go so far. You can guard your words. You can set boundaries. You can make wise decisions. But you cannot control every narrative, every perception, every hidden intention of others. And trying to do so will slowly drain the life out of you. When you let God defend you, you are not withdrawing from life. You are repositioning yourself within it. You are saying, I will walk with integrity. I will act with wisdom, but I will not be consumed by the need to win every battle. Imagine a child walking beside a strong parent through a crowded place. The child does not scan every face for danger. The child does not calculate every risk. The child walks, aware of the hand holding theirs. That hand is security. That hand is defense. That hand is guidance. You are invited into that posture, not childish irresponsibility, but childlike trust. There are accusations that may still circulate. There may be people who misunderstand you. There may be outcomes that unfold slower than you prefer. But none of those things override the deeper reality that your life is held within a greater story. And here is something important for your emotional healing. Being defended by God does not always mean being publicly validated. Sometimes it means being internally strengthened. Sometimes it means being redirected away from spaces that were never meant to sustain you. Sometimes it means doors quietly closing to protect you from environments that would have diminished you. Defense can look like redirection. Defense can look like delay. Defense can look like silence. Defense can look like peace in the middle of misunderstanding. Pay attention to the peace. If, in the midst of external tension, there is a quiet steadiness forming inside you that is not accidental, that is protection at the level of your nervous system. That is your soul beginning to feel safe again. You are not required to fight every misunderstanding. You are not required to chase every rumor. You are not required to prove your worth repeatedly. Your worth is not on trial. Let that sentence settle deeply. Your worth is not on trial. The cross was not a desperate act. It was a definitive statement of value. You were already seen, already known, already loved. Nothing happening around you today changes that eternal reality. So, as this prayer comes to completion, allow yourself one final surrender. Lord, I release the need to control how I am perceived. I release the urgency to defend myself at every turn. I release the fear that if I do not fight, I will lose everything. Teach me to trust your timing. Teach me to rest in your justice. Teach me to walk in integrity and let you handle what is beyond me. Sit with that. Let your breathing deepen once more. Feel your chest rise and fall. Notice if your body feels even slightly lighter than when we began. Even a small shift matters. Even a subtle softening is evidence of change. Difficult times do not last forever, but what they produce in you can. They can produce resilience. They can produce clarity. They can produce a deeper intimacy with God that comfort never could. And one day, you may look back at this season, the accusations, the uncertainty, the waiting, and realize that it was the very place where you learned to stop striving and start trusting. For now, you do not need to see the entire path. You only need the next step. And the next step is simple. Breathe, trust, and move forward with quiet confidence. You are not alone in this moment. You are not unseen. You are not undefended. There is a presence surrounding you, a wisdom guiding you, a strength holding you steady. And as you step into the rest of your day, or into your rest tonight, carry this assurance gently in your heart. God is defending you. You can lower your shoulders. You can unclench your jaw. You can rest your mind. He is with you. He is for you. And He is already working in ways you cannot yet see. Stay in that awareness and let peace remain.